What a huge, huge weekend for combat sports. We just recently went through UFC 309 with arguably the greatest mixed martial artist ever. Okay, like I'm a little partial, right? Like I was huge into the sport in the late 2000s, early 2010s, in the prime of GSP, Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva, to me, like he was the best ever. Okay, he was the best to ever do it, and I seen most of his big fights. And the fact that he made the middleweight division look like absolute children, and then the moment that he left, everything went into complete and utter chaos and turmoil. That kind of lets you know exactly how much better he was than one of the best divisions that are out there. The same conversations can be made about GSP, but even though I'm Canadian as well, I don't have that same type of inbuilt biases. It's like Anderson Silva, didn't take fights off against lesser opponents till the end of his career, the way GSP did with Matt Serra and Matt Hughes. I understand that he avenged both of those losses, but the fact that he checked out when he still had so much gas left in the tank, and he also refused the super fight with Anderson Silva that would have sold out any stadium in any corner of the world. Yeah, it's a reason why, I hold him in somewhat lesser regards, but still, he's the top 3 fighter ever. But honestly, for as many times as Jon Jones has had starts and stops in his career, he's somebody that I've seen, from fighting prelims at UFC 100, all the way with his entire undefeated streak, even given the old 12-6 elbow that resulted in his loss on his record against Mark Hamill. Not that one, but the other one. The deaf one, not the dumb one. I watched him, win the #1 contenders match against Ian Bader, take the belt off of Shogun, a month or two later, and then run roughshod over the division. And then by the time that I checked out of the sport was about the time that, he started getting into some legal trouble, and then would come back and fight at heavyweight, and then have to take some time away because he ended up popping hot on a drug test. And it's like, you know what? If he could have put together more consecutive defenses without finding so much controversy in his life, he wouldn't just be, in some people's mind, the greatest pound-for-pound fighter ever. He would undisputedly be the best fighter ever. I, for one, especially after the way that he disposed of Stipe Miocic, I'll be completely honest, man. I'm probably fine with putting him ahead of Anderson Silva. And if you knew me and how much I worshipped that guy back in the cut, and Fedor Emelianenko as well, like I was walking around apoplectic after he lost, to Bigfoot. In the aftermath, I got, Affliction put it out a Fedor shirt. I have so many old MMA shirts from back in the day. It's like, I used to love the sport, but then it just, that's another story for another time. We're talking about how Jon Jones, cemented his legacy right here. And they also did it, as the AP points out, in front of Donald Trump, who received one of the biggest ovations. Holy Christ. I don't want to play too much of this because I know how much UFC, well, I guess it would be TKO at this point in time, but they're quite litigious when it comes to this stuff. But I just want to show you guys the pop, let you hear this one. The moment that he came on screen, the entire crew was there. He had his 2 boys, like Eric and Don Jr. in the back. You can see Elon standing there in the middle with his goofy ass Occupy Mars shirt and his dark Gothic MAGA hat, and Mike Johnson, who's been pretty based, and I think we got to talk politics sometime later this week, but been pretty good, okay. And Kid Rock constantly looking like, the vagabond deadbeat dad that came back into the town, after he won like a couple grand on a scratch ticket in order to, flaunt his wealth. But he's there, Tulsi Gabbard's there, RFK's there, like the entire crew is there. But of course, Trump and Dana White lead the charge on this one, and bro, the roof at MSG, okay? The last time that this collection of individuals were there, they were reenacting a Nazi rally. Like, yeah, okay, cool. Now that we put about a month between those 2 appearances, let's just see how much people actually gave a shit about that.
Ladies and gentlemen, look who is now making his way to the world-famous Octagon, flanked by UFC CEO Dana White.
Yeah, and it's absolutely crazy, right? Like, from dead to the moment that he pops on screen, like,
Ladies and gentlemen, look who is now
just freaking electric. So much so that even Joe Rogan has to, point it out.
People at home could hear the sound in this room. It's so loud in here. It is.
There's something else that you're going to notice as well, just the people that are hanging around, just hanging out there. Like, they're cheering, they're having a great time, and it's all organic, okay? It just shows you the cross-section of people. And isn't that Jelly Roll guy? It's like, everybody's there having a great time at the fights, okay? And Trump giving props to the people that helped him out along the way, giving Joe Rogan a big dab, okay, shaking hands with John Anik beforehand, and then, going over to Daniel Cormier, showing out as well. Huge, and huge too after, Jon Jones. I don't want to show too much of this, but I think you get the point that, yeah, man, it's been a minute. And the fact that he won the fight off of that kick right there, and then also to celebrate in the aftermath, okay, with Trump sitting front row. We don't even need any sound on this one. In fact, he spots Trump there. You can see him looking around. Yeah. What are we going to do? Oh, we're going to do the most popular dance move in the world right now. So much so that I seen some rumblings, and there were quite a few. There were quite a few players this past weekend in the NFL after a sack, after a big touchdown, after a big catch or something like this, popping up, and then also doing a Trump shimmy as well. The mood has significantly shifted, which is exactly what Tim Young pointed out. And this is something that I can actually play in totality because it's somebody's, phone. Yeah, it's somebody's phone video. But Jon Jones, after the fight, walking over and handing Trump the belt, bro, things are different. Things are big. And this is, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But yeah, just having a moment with arguably the greatest fighter in a mixed martial arts history. That's significant. That is significant. And that is something that at the beginning of this year, would anybody have thought would have happened? Like, I was convinced that Trump was going to win this election for a long time now, in the aftermath of 2020. I thought that he would make it 3 in a row this time around. And here we are. 1000%. But we go from one GOAT to another. And like I said, it was a big weekend for combat sports, but as noteworthy as UFC 309 was, the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight was much more noticeable and noteworthy for another reason, because Netflix holding a very boring, a very pathetic fight. Okay, I understand that some of the fights on the undercard were, quite good. The women unifying their belts, it was quite controversial, but, boxing judges and being controversial, I mean, stop me if you've heard this story before, but even still, the headline fight, 58-year-old Mike Tyson taking on 27-year-old Jake Paul. And the fight went, well, exactly the way that everybody thought that it would. I'm a big Mike Tyson fan, huge Mike Tyson fan. I've got the documentary. Hell, one of the pictures in the background, I got the frame from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and, it's signed by the guy right there. So I was rooting for him, but I never thought that he would win, unless, of course, he walks out and, tags him with the left hook that has put so many people to sleep in his career. Like, I never thought that Mike Tyson would get the chance. Jake would just dance around him for 8 rounds, and that would be the end of it. And ultimately, that's what ended up happening. Like, I seen some of the box scores that were out there, and Jake outstruck him 73-18 or something like that. And power punches, it was nowhere close. And a lot of people said, "Oh, Mike Tyson got old, and this is a changing of the guard." But in actuality, I think if we really want to get conspiratorial about this, if we want to strap on the old tinfoil hat, and in the press conference afterwards, Mike Tyson talking about potentially doing a boxing match with Logan Paul. It's like, I think both of them probably have, an understanding. Like, this fight, the way that it's been presented has gone through multiple different variations, where they were supposed to have 16-ounce gloves. There was going to be a no knockout policy. It was more or less, and it started out as an exhibition. Eventually, it became the 14-ounce gloves regulated affair that, a lot of people were subjected to, some of which were, I guess, a little bit more blessed by being subjected to even more of the fight, with a lot of stuttering, a lot of technical issues on top of it just being, kind of a bad fight. But what else did you expect, man? A 31-year age gap. Man who, at one point in time, the baddest man on the planet. Somebody who probably still, I still wouldn't, okay? Even after seeing some of the performance that was out there, I would still not want to meet Mike Tyson in a dark alley. I would much rather square up against Jake Paul with everything that I've seen. And all of the think pieces that are out there, in order for Jake Paul to be taken seriously, he needs to go up against stiffer competition. The only time he's actually gone up against somebody who is, in his prime and somewhat of a capable heavyweight, he ended up getting starched. And it's like, all of that's true, but it doesn't really much matter. You think somebody who came up as a social media influencer, the blueprint of that archetype? Think he actually cares about being taken seriously as a fighter, or does he just want to get as much money as possible and then peace out? That's kind of what I'm thinking. And at the end of the day, yeah, Jake Paul won the fight, but he won the event. Mike Tyson, he won the event because he was never going to get any criticism. If he lost, yeah, he's 58 years old. If he won, holy shit, he's 58 years old and he won. But his accountants also won, because I'd imagine there was a huge payday on this one. The only people who lost, that would be Netflix, okay? Because they're trying to break into the live sports market. They're going to have a marquee performance, a marquee game on Christmas Day, a Christmas Day NFL game. And if they can't get the streaming right for a novelty boxing match, for something that's going to be fairly high profile, I know it's the Houston Texans, who are right close to the top of the AFC South, and I think it's the Ravens. Like, it's a good matchup regardless, and yeah, it's going to be one that people are going to have their eyes on, because what is it, like last or the second last week of the regular season? So yeah, there's going to be a lot of demand on this one. And if you take a look at the numbers that the likes of CBS's streaming service and a couple of the other outlets were also getting for their playoffs last year, Netflix better be ready, and they better get their servers in order. And especially, yeah, if they want to do more live programming, if they're going to get into like Major League Baseball next year, because the Bally's contracts, those are in flux tremendously, and MLB is having to put on a bunch of different broadcasts for a bunch of different teams. So if Netflix is going to try to get in on that one, and then also, oh yeah, at the beginning of the year, WWE's coming over, and I understand, you know, you're barely getting a fraction of the same turnout that you were going to likely get from a Tyson Paul, which, oh yeah, by the way, here's the thing. Netflix saying 60 million people checked in on Jake Paul. Yeah, bro, I don't care if Mike Tyson's in the main event of WrestleMania. WWE's never getting close to 60 million concurrent viewers. They can barely get 1.5 million people to watch Monday Night Raw, for Christ's sake. So you think people are going to sign up for a streaming service after that? So yeah, the Monday morning quarterbacking saying Netflix flops hard. Bro, 60 million people checked that shit out on a subscription service. They did mighty fine on that one. But the technical limitations, using this as something that, yeah, you're going to have captive audiences on, because, okay, if they have to wade through all of the streaming lulls, if they have to cut their teeth on something of this caliber, yeah, they'll go ahead and bite it for a second. This is setting the stage for something so much bigger. And yeah, what was the big takeaway as well? You know, they were going backstage to interview Mike Tyson. He was just in a jockstrap and he had his bare old man ass out. Like, what the like, what are we doing out here? But the interest was high for Mike Tyson's return to boxing ring, to battle upstart social media megastar Jake Paul. It seemed as though the whole world was ready to watch the baddest man on the planet do battle with the brash boxer. Endless buffering and diminished visual quality, yeah, setting off a wave of fan frustration. Yeah, a lot of people pointed to stuttering issues that they were having. Seen a lot of people, you know, posting screenshots of buffering, and it's like, yeah, okay, you would kind of expect that, especially if the figure of 60 million concurrent viewers is to be believed. That kind of lets you know what kind of capability Netflix has, and the fact that they are dominating all of entertainment. That boxing is still a viable form of combat sports. Novelty fights are always going to sell, and that the two biggest stories of the weekend had very little to nothing to do with Hollywood. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.